Hello, this is Alex Calvo Garcia. You're listening to the Iron Hour podcast.
Right, thanks once again for tuning in to the Iron Hour podcast. I'm your host, as usual. Well, I'm back this week. I'm Barra, and I'm joined by three of my usual panel. I've got Gareth, aka Iron Army. How you doing, Gaz?
I'm really good, thank you. I'm tired, but really good.
You look in a bad way, mate. I've also got published author Max Bell.
Do I look in a bad way too?
You look beautiful.
Don't lie. Let's not get the podcast off with that kind of foot.
No, fair enough. A face that only a mother would love. And even then, it's touch and go. And I'm also joined by none other than...
You know my mother personally, dear.
It's too early in the podcast. And I'm joined by none other than raging alcoholic Marco Paliga. How you doing, Marco?
Yeah, great. Thanks for that lovely introduction.
That's all right.
I'm on the Pepsi tonight, so yeah, we're all good. Other soft drinks are available.
I won't say who, but I was speaking to somebody today, and I said, "Oh, Marco's actually dealing with that. He's sorting it." He had a conversation with that person, and this person said, "Don't tell me he was 9 pints deep." I'm like, "Well, yeah, probably."
Must have been football day.
Must have been. And a big thank you to our sponsor, as usual, Best Blanks Wholesale. So this episode comes to you courtesy of Best Blanks Wholesale, the best wholesale producer in the business. How's that, Gareth?
Well, sounds all right to me. We've had a good month. We've had a good month.
I can tell. You've got better lighting in the shack now. So there's lots to kick off with. I mean, I've just got to start with the obvious. You know, we might not be the top podcast, but we are top of the league, Marco.
We are, and let's hope we stay there. All roads lead to Concord Park Friday, which looks set already so early on in the season to be an absolute barnstormer. So
it does, but don't give the farm away so early in the podcast, mate. We've got lots to get through before we get to Kidderminster on Friday night. So we've got two games to review. We'll kick off with the one on Saturday. It was 1-1 against Chorley. I would say a decent game as a neutral, possibly not the most entertaining, but watching a team kind of trying to hold on at the end and an away team trying to put pressure on, I think, always makes for an entertaining spectacle. Now, the first goal, Max, it was interesting. There was some kind of drop ball situation where Clunan puts a ball across, we think it's Clunan, and then Boyce heads it back over and Whitehall heads it in. Did you realise what was happening at the time, Max?
Yeah, I did. I mean, it was quite an interesting one. I would say it was an excellent cross by Clunan. You know, no matter what the circumstances, really good delivery. And actually, I think he's been one of the Irons' best players so far this season. I think he's looked really good so far. And I'm not just saying that because we sponsor him; it's true. The drop ball rule obviously has changed within the last couple of years. When the Chorley defender went down injured, the rule is now that the ball is dropped where and to the team it was when the referee blew his whistle. That just happened to be in a good offensive position for the Iron down our right-hand side. And I welcome that rule change because we've all seen it too many times where there's a little bit of gamesmanship from a certain side or a certain player, and then not only are they going down to kill the game, but then the ball has to go all the way back to the opposition goalkeeper and they lose 50, 60, 70 yards. So that bit was definitely right. One of two things has happened off the back of that, though, really. Either the Chorley defender has had a complete brain fart and just decided that he's not going to close Clunan down, because once that ball's dropped, he's able to take his time, have a little bit of a run up, basically whip it in like a free kick. Or the referees had a bit of a brain fart and enforced that as a rule almost, that he couldn't engage until Clunan touched it. Because obviously the previous drop balls were often contested, you know, and it was that they were at it. But
scenario 3, neither of those things happened, and it was a miscommunication, which seems to be kind of what I think Butler alluded to in his post-match interview. He seemed to think the players were under the impression that the referee had said it was not to be contested, and then actually the referee had said on the field that he hadn't said that, and they'd misheard him. So,
or scenario 4, you ask Clue what happened when you're in Tesco after the game.
So tell us, Gareth, what happened in Tesco after the game?
Drop ball, and basically he said that he told the referee that the Chorley player, the defender, isn't allowed to touch the ball till he's touched it, which makes sense as to why there was no challenge or anything to go for the ball. So basically, he's just got a free cross into the box, and the referee went along with it. That's what happened.
So Cloonan's had the referee's pants down.
Basically, yeah, he's told the referee that he can't touch the ball till he's touched it, and so it just gives him a free cross into the box, and the referee's gone along with it. He said he didn't know the rules at all.
In which case, Max is right. It was scenario 2 all along then, and the referee's had a brain fart.
Well, yeah, helped by Cloonan telling him.
So I think that's quite interesting though, just because that could also be part brain fart, part miscommunication. Because if Cloonan has told the referee that the Chorley defender can't touch the ball until Cloonan has touched it, that might actually be right. But as to whether or not the defender has to stand 10 yards away, as opposed to standing 2 inches away from the ball to stop Cloonan whipping in what was a really good cross from the Iron player, I'm not really sure. But look, we'll have moments this season, and we certainly had plenty of moments last season where those kind of miscommunications or refereeing decisions or whatever you want to call it don't go for us. So we've got to try and enjoy the rub of the green while we can.
And Marco, my question for you, did you manage to stay awake through all of that?
I'm still here. Just trying to find a different podcast. But no, it was one of them. Like you said, Max, I think, hit the nail on the head there last season. My mind goes back to Blythe with the offside goal that wasn't given. No, the advantage. The advantage goal that wasn't given and stuff like that. So look, you know the saying, it all works itself out throughout the season, and I'm sure someone will get their own back on us at some point.
I don't agree with that statement. I always say this. Like, I think that saying's a load of tosh, because, like, who makes the rule that actually over 46 games it all evens out? Why doesn't it all even out over 100 games or 200 games? Like, so sometimes you get lucky and sometimes you don't. It's as simple as that, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I don't think we got much rub of a green last season. Let's just hope looks like we get a bit more this season.
Yeah, exactly.
That was quite a sophisticated statistician's argument from you there, Barrett, talking about whether or not the sample size is large enough for refereeing decisions. You know, what are your controllable factors? Can you do a double-blind placebo study? I like it. This is sophisticated.
Well, what can I say? My sample size has always been good. No laughter. Jesus.
Marco has left the podcast.
Right, so a quite sloppy goal we conceded at the end. Again, it was a little bit of a mess. So Carlton Abazunu kind of hikes the ball into the air, but it doesn't go very far. It's a shanked clearance, which he chases after his own clearance. Then in the second phase of play, Gareth, the ball is then hiked back into the box, and the man was completely free at the far post just to kind of, smash it home past Fitzsimmons. Was you disappointed?
Yes, obviously. Didn't want to see us concede, but on the play side of things, I thought that Chorley deserved something from it. Especially that last 20 minutes or so, 25 minutes, they were just going for it. So for him to get a goal, yeah, it was disappointing, but it was deserved as, being level-headed. And then I thought, in all fairness, I thought they were going to get a second as well. The way they were going, they were looking for it. And yeah, I would have been gutted. But the way it was just, like you say, I think it was Mark Ellis, wasn't it? That
it was Mark Ellis, yeah.
Across the hall, and he got Evans sent off last season at their place. And so for it to be him as well, I was a bit gutted.
Well, I think he'd come off the bench as well, hadn't he?
Yeah, he had, yeah, he'd come off. But it was effective, his little flick. And like I say, Hall was in acres of space and just had loads of time to pick his spot and put it in.
And a couple of other talking points from that game, Max. The standout would be Andy Boyce did go off with a bit of a niggle. It doesn't sound like it's too serious, but he didn't feature at all on Monday. Do you expect he might be back in contention in terms of injury-wise, not in terms of whether he would actually make the team, but do you expect to see he might be back in contention by Friday?
Yes. It seemed, on the basis of the noises we've heard from the club so far, like you say, they didn't think his injury was too serious. And whether or not that's him being on the bench or him being in the starting 11, not really 100% sure. But I think we have already seen a trend from the Irons so far this season in terms of Butler not being afraid to intervene or to rotate based on either injury or B, injury risk or the potential of injury risk. When you've got the games coming thick and fast, you're thinking that we're playing Saturday, Monday, Friday, Tuesday. Butler's already talked in some of his post-match interviews with BBC Radio Humbersam. He's talking about the GPS data and how much, when the players get to a certain threshold, that he might think about resting them or rotating them. So it certainly wouldn't surprise me if that continues to happen, particularly in a position where we have got a little bit of cover, like we have at centre-half. And I was just pleased that the performance without Boyce at South Shields was a really positive one.
Yeah, I'd probably go along with that. Gareth, I just want to kind of get your opinion on something. So last season, a lot of fans kind of observed that Jimmy Dean was maybe a little bit slow in making his subs or didn't utilise his full, it was 3 subs last season, didn't always utilise his 3 subs. Now, on Saturday, and not for the first time this season, we saw Randy Butler deploy 5 substitutions in that second half. And to be honest, when you look at the calibre of the team that finished the game versus the calibre of team that started the game for us, it felt like there was quite a difference, quite a disparity between the two. Do you think maybe it was 1 sub too many and actually it wasn't needed in the end?
No, because I think, one of those subs was Beeston coming on, and he scored the second goal.
You're thinking of Monday, bud. Sticking with Saturday. Let's stick with Saturday.
Saturday. Oh, yeah.
Let's stick with Saturday with the 5 subs that didn't quite work out.
Right.
So you'll say, yes, you're right all along, Barra. So the 5 subs on Saturday, was it 1 too many, Gareth?
It was probably 2 too many. But yeah, it was. It just stopped the flow of the game. Once Whitehall had gone off, it made a massive difference up top. He was holding it up well, getting midfield involved, and that just went. And I think that helped Chorley massively. As we saw, like I said, the last 25 minutes, they really got into the game. So, yeah, I think there was the subs. They didn't work that day, but obviously other days they have done.
Indeed. And Marco, you were stood next to me or near me on the terrace on Saturday. What did you think of a couple of fans? And I say a couple because it was literally 1 or 2, but actually booing at full time, on the Donny Road, and it was just insane, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, every club has got people who choose to do it. And look, these people pay the money, they're more than entitled to their opinion, but I mean, I think we just need to have a little sit back. We're top of the league, we're unbeaten. Look, I'm the first negative Nelly if there's a few bad performances, but come on, let's give them a break. This, what we in 4 or 5 games in, and booing a home draw against. Look, Chorley will be there and thereabouts again. Like I said, we can't underestimate these teams. But yeah, regarding the subs, I do think just because we do have 5 now. I don't think we necessarily have to use all 5. I think Whitehall coming off enabled them to push an extra 10, 15 yards up the pitch. And that's how very quiet it came.
Yeah, I'd probably agree with that. So let's move forward then to the Bank Holiday Monday game away at South Shields. A much better result and a much better performance, really. 2-0 away from home against any opposition is a good result. But actually, the South Shields of last season were very fluent, were very fluid, a very attacking team. And actually, looked a bit of a different team this season, Marco. I mean, Paul Blackett was the Golden Boot winner last season and actually was very ineffective on Monday. Was you disappointed, surprised by how South Shields lined up and performed on Monday?
Oh, definitely not disappointed. I hope a lot more teams have disappointing days. Look, if every team can have a disappointing day against us, I'll take promotion that way. Does not bother me. But yeah, look, I was surprised. I think it was quite similar to the opening game against Brackley away, where sort of we had a good day, but they had a really bad day. And I think that was a bit of both. I mean, fair man drafted a game with some odd shouts of how the game went, which I don't think is right at all. I saw it very different to how he saw it. Don't get me wrong, I don't think it was a complete performance. I think we've played better this season. But I think for a majority of the game, we did look rather comfortable. I think our second goal was probably against a run of play. I think South Shields did have a good 10, 15 minutes where we did look on top. Not really creating too much clear chances. Like you said, Blackett didn't really trouble Fitzsimmons a great deal. But yeah, look, the more teams that have off days, the better.
Yeah, absolutely. Max, I think for me so far this season, two of the points of difference have been Scales and Roberts kind of in the middle of the park doing their thing. I think it's really kind of elevated us above the teams we've played this season. Now, that was kind of personified in the first half when Roberts put Scales through on goal and he had that volley, that half volley, which just grazed the top of the bar. How much of those two impressed you this season, Max? And that move in particular, do you think that's kind of indicative of what we might expect to see this season?
I think it will be indicative, particularly if players stay fit. It's not really a surprise to anybody when Roberts does show the quality that he's got, even if it's in the middle of the park or in the number 10 role or on the right of a central midfield three. If he's trying to drift wide, find a little bit of pocket and space, if he's got the wing back on an overlap, for example. I've been impressed with the midfield so far. I know I already praised Clunan earlier. I think Scales is often being asked to do quite a tough job, often having to cover quite a big area of the pitch. Against Chorley, he ended that game at right wing back. And obviously then there was, as Marco mentioned earlier, there was quite a big gap in that area of the pitch for their equaliser. But I certainly wouldn't think of Scales as a wing back, as good as he can be and as hard as he does work. And the new contract he got, I thought was extremely well deserved. So really, really pleased for him to stay, especially as he's pretty unlikely to be one of the club's bigger or biggest earners. So if you hope that players in the middle of the park can keep putting in those big performances, it'll make a big positive difference for us, because when you play in that 3-5-2 system, one big advantage, almost like a chessboard, is controlling those central areas in your half and in the opposition's. So the longer those positive performances can go, the better chance we've got to be winning games, especially away from home.
Yeah. Gareth, maybe one player who's not quite hit the ground running so far this season. For me, Mike, I think there's an argument to say Carlton Obazunu has maybe not got off to the start I would have hoped for. He obviously missed the first 3 games and he has featured in the last 2. As he started on Monday. Now, he was put through by Roberts in the first half and he blazed his shot way over, and there was a couple of other scuff shots in the second half. Do you think there's a lot more to see from Carlton?
Yeah, I think when you've missed 3 games of the season and coming late into the team, as it were, playing competitive games, I think that's a big thing to come straight into. So you've got to get used to that and used to the way the team plays in a match. But for me, on Monday, he was taking too many touches. I know it's easy for me to say, stuck there watching, but I just thought, if he'd have hit it first time, could have had a different outcome. But it just seems to take a couple of touches too many for me. But I think it will definitely, it looked promising, and the speed as well, putting the ball down the channels for him to run onto and what have you. He's got the pace to get the ball, get past his man, which is a good thing to see. But he can only get better. I think more game time, he'll be more relaxed, more composed, and just get used to the way the way that we play.
Yeah, I think you're probably right there. And as you mentioned, his pace, I think, will again be another point of difference for us this season because at times it looks like he's got electric pace, and I think he could really cause some teams some problems, particularly as Butler seems to favour this two up top. And I think when you've got one of your strikers with that kind of raw pace, if the other one's in the right positions, then it really does kind of spell trouble for the opposition. Now, Marco, in the first half, Roberts got the goal in the first half, and again it was tidy link-up play, tidy build-up play, and Whitehall got his shot off. It was kind of blocked on the line, and then Roberts scored. Offensively, we look a level above, don't we, this season?
Yeah, and to be fair, much like Barrows, I feel like at the end of the season, I'm probably going to have to apologise to Carl Roberts as well, because I didn't think pre-season he looked very comfortable in that 10 role, or even in the centre. Obviously, we thought Carl Roberts is best off out wide running at people, but in that 10, he does cause a lot of problems. And like you say, it seems to be working really well. So yeah, no, I'm a big fan of it. And like I said, the intricate passing, Whitehall getting his shot off, and it was just fair. No, I like it. I do really. And again, with Clunan sitting and then Scales and Roberts with that work rate, it does seem to be paying off.
Gareth, this is my opinion, okay? In that second half, I thought Shields actually had a lot of the ball and looked like a real possession-based team, but they never really kind of cut through or got past the lines. Do you know, they reminded me a little bit of how we looked at points last season. Do you think that's a fair assumption? And did you feel like they might get a goal when they were playing that way?
I did, because they had a lot of the ball around the box, passing it round us. A lot of possession, and a couple of times Blackett got put through. And if it weren't for Fitzsimmons coming off his line and making the saves, could have been a different scoreline. So yeah, they did look threatening. But I think there was too much passing, looking for that killer ball. Like I say, a couple of times he went through for Blackett, and Fitzsimmons alerted to it and off his line and knocked it away. So I can see what you're saying there, for definite.
And Max Sufial Beeston getting his third of the season. Again, he'd be top joint scorer now with Danny Whitehall on 3. And again, it was such good play. I think it was the ball was spread out wide from Scales across to Kelly, who put the ball in the box, and then it was headed back from Whitehall and then headed in from Beeston. Again, when we talk about these goals which we're scoring, a lot of them, yes, do seem to be coming from out wide. But actually, crucially, the point there is getting the ball in the middle of the park. And the build-up play from there just seems a level above, doesn't it?
And there was clearly a premeditated, rather, I should say, in terms of how they moved once they got the ball out wide. We'd seen it 3 or 4 times from set pieces in terms of how they were trying to hit 3 or 4 yards back from the back post, get the ball back across the face, and then have 3 or 4 people at what was the near post attacking the situation. We'd seen it with Evans had peeled wide, Nicholson had got there a couple of times. It just hadn't worked. Maybe the delivery was too heavy, or that the header back across wasn't quite good enough, or there weren't enough runners. But for the second goal, which I think was right, it came at a really good time when we had been under the cosh a little bit, sort of period of 15, 20 minutes when South Shields up the tempo. But then the ball's not quite as deep. Whitehall peels back. It's a good, strong, powerful header, and Beeston's movement has been good. And that is what I would say about the goals that you scored so far, is that it hasn't just been about Beeston hitting them from the edge of the area. His movement and his anticipation has been spot on. It's not any secret I defended Beeston large parts of last season when he was getting critics. So the longer he can keep making positive performances and positive contributions, then everyone will be praising him, because that's all we want to see. We want to see winning performances. We want to see goals.
And I thought for you, Marco, on Fitzsimmons. Now, Gareth actually mentioned the save from Fitzsimmons earlier on. Now, there were 2 good saves in that second half. How good has he been this season?
I think he's just picked up from last year. Besides the odd moment of not rage, but moment of madness with a ball at his feet, which I don't think will ever change. I think he's been outstanding. and we say it repeatedly on this podcast, he could easily do a job. He'd be one of the better keepers in the league above. So yeah, safe hands with Fitzsimmons, and was a stat that the Iron Stats put out the other day regarding his amount of clean sheets, which I think is like half his games at Scunthorpe end up in clean sheets, which is absolutely crazy. Yeah, I mean, is a class above this, and we're very lucky to have him.
As a cracking keeper. Gareth, was you chomping at the bit there to say something?
What? No, just going back to what Max was talking about peeling away Danny Whitehall. It was like a bit of a carbon copy with the Fishburne goal. That he scored. He's knocked it. The ball's come in. He's gone to the back post, knocked it back into the middle. And so it's obviously something the club's working on, and it's paying dividends.
I like the idea that there's going to be a Kidderminster scout watching this and go, as soon as me and Gareth said, "Oh, we're scoring more than one goal and we're doing this," he's going to be there going, "Shit, write that down."
Well, maybe, who knows? But you bring us nicely on to the game on Friday. Friday night football, it's special, isn't it? And actually, although, we're only 5 games in, this will be the 6th game of the season, it's shaping up to be a cracking game. Scunthorpe versus Kidderminster Harriers, Friday night, top of the table clash. Okay, it's only 5 games in, but we sit top of that pile at the moment, and they're just that 1 point behind us. They have lost a game though, which again is interesting. I think was it Warrington they lost to, but they did have a fantastic result on Monday. They beat Oxford City 4-0. And actually, I spent this morning kind of watching an extended highlights package of the game just to kind of have a look at what we might expect from Kidderminster on Friday. And I listened to Phil Brown in his post-match interview. And there's some interesting points. But before we get into that, Gareth, obviously they've got a very experienced manager in Phil Brown, promoted twice, managed, of course, in the Premier League. Do you how do you see him? Do you think he can marshal his troops? And are you worried about Kidderminster this season because of that factor?
You've got to worry about them. They're in the league last season, being relegated. Obviously, they don't want to be stuck in the league, so they'll try the best to get out of it. I know a lot of their fans at the beginning of the season were worrying that they were going to finish mid-table. They've still got the chance, obviously, but they've had a really good start, and obviously Phil Brown's going to motivate his troops, as it were, to get the best out of them. Like you say, he's managed here, there, and everywhere. So yeah, it can only be a good thing for them that he's there at the helm.
Just coming back to the game then, that 4-0 victory for them on Monday. I feel like it was slightly misleading. It was a bit harsh scoreline. So they look good. They look good value for the win. But actually, 3 of the goals possibly could be put down as goalkeeping errors. So the first of which, it's very messy, is a goalkeeping mistake from an in-swinging free kick. He basically comes to collect the ball, misses it, and it drops on a spot for Ben Beresford to knock home his 2nd of the season. Now, shortly after that goal, Ben Beresford would have been my kind of one to look out for, but he limps off, you see, slightly after he scores that goal, shortly after he scores that goal, and he is a doubt for Friday night's game. So that'll be interesting to see how that goes. I can see Marco fist pumping there. Does that kind of whet your appetite then, Marco?
Yeah, no, I think again it's going to be a typical Marco here. Did they get Max Kuyar on loan from York?
Yes. Again, yeah. So this I'll talk about this in a moment, but he scored his 3rd of the season to make it, I think it was 3-0. Scored his 3rd of the season to make it 3-0, and he looked really quite dangerous on that right wing. I'd be really surprised actually if he stays the full season with Kidderminster. I would expect York would probably want him back at some point based on his early form and based on how good he looks.
Yeah. Oh, I'm very surprised York loaned him out again. My only thinking behind it is they don't want him to be in enough National League team. Sending to a team who they think is going to be towards the top end.
But again, that goal, it was the 3rd goal, so we're kind of jumping ahead of time again. But that goal, the goalkeeper comes out, scuffs a clearance, and it ricochets straight off him and goes into the goal. So again, that was the 2nd goal that could probably have been put down as a goalkeeping error. Now, the 2nd goal was probably the best worked one of the lot. It was from a second phase of play. They took the ball, they shifted it back out wide for Ashley Hemmings to head home for his third of the season as well. But again, I've made notes here saying the keeper could possibly have saved it. I don't think that one was a mistake as such, but if you go back and watch the goals, I would expect and I would like to think Fitzsimmons might have saved that one. But the point there is they're scoring lots of goals. Now, they do look like a possession-based, free-flowing team, but they can be direct if needed. And again, from this extended highlights package, they look to cause chaos from corners. So similar to what we employ with the love train, as I call it, where they all queue up ready to attack the ball from offensive corners. But that seems to be what they'll do. And also, when they get the ball, they really do seem to like to put it out wide. And I wonder, Gareth, if because of how effective they are on the wing, whether Butler might go for actually 4 at the back, just to give them that extra bit of cover in your fullback positions, or if he does stick with 3 at the back, whether it's more of an actual 5 rather than a 3 this time, because I do think their main threat comes from the wing, Gareth.
Yeah, they've got Cadogan, is it, on the wing as well? Good player. So, but yeah, you could be right there. But I think, do we want to play our game, as in keep it as it is, something that we're used to doing, see how it goes, and if we have to change it, or do we change it from the very beginning? Not too sure about that. You know, I think we've looked good defensively with the wing backs as well. I think Kelly is having a really good season. He's come in and he didn't get much joy last season. He's had injury, a few knocks, but I think he's started really well this season. Just took his chance and ran with it.
Yeah, and Oxford kind of do go down to 10 men on 51 minutes, and it does kind of change the game a lot. Although it was 3-0 already at that point, but I can't stress enough though, Max. I do feel like Kidderminster look a threat on the wing. Do you expect, like we've just talked about there with Gareth, do you expect to see any shifting of tactics for this game?
From us, not massively. I think Butler has clearly worked hard and believes in 3-5-2/5-3-2, getting the best out of these players. So, if you believe in a system and you spend many, many hours on the training ground working on it, then you should be working on it in a way that combats different sides and different threats, especially when you're at home. Look, if we were going there and it's a really important game away from home at the back end of the season and we're desperate for a point, you might think about it, but I would be very surprised if he switched to a 4 at the back. I mean, look, it's Phil Brown. We know how his side set up. He's an extremely experienced manager. He was Sam Allardyce's number 2 at Bolton for a number of years. That by and large they're solid. They don't make big mistakes. They won't overplay in their defensive third. They'll try to transition either the ball on the ground or in the air, but they will try to transition as quickly as they possibly can, and they will be dangerous from set pieces. There's no doubt about that. But this is a bigger, more offensively minded from set pieces iron side than we've had for a number of years now. And whether or not Boyce is back or not, you would still back them to have big aerial threats in both boxes. So I am looking forward to it. It's still very early days. I would urge Iron fans to, this game isn't make or break. We know that we're sometimes only ever one bad performance or one disappointing result away from thinking the world is ending. Football isn't like that. If we get beat on Friday, we'll still have many, many games still to come in this season where we can try and, be back in the National League next year, which is what we all want.
Of course. And just to talk about the fourth goal, because I think it's worth mentioning, it was a free kick from all of 25, 30 yards out from Seb Blake Thompson. And again, he came on for Beresford in that game. So maybe he might start, who knows. And it was an absolute beauty. A knuckleball free kick, like I say, 25, 30 yards out. And he caught it so sweet. And you would like to think this might be his breakthrough season at 21. He's had a couple of false starts. So again, He'll be one to watch, I think, on Friday, whether he starts or whether he comes off the bench. Again, he could be a point of difference. Now, the two players that I've kind of highlighted to watch out for, so Iron fans listening to this and thinking, what can we expect from Friday? Two players I've pointed as the point of difference. We've got Ashley Hemmings, 33-year-old, accomplished striker, plays for the likes of Wolves, Plymouth, Walsall, Mansfield, Altrincham, and many more. When you look at his list of clubs, it's huge. He's been around. He's got a bag full of goals, particularly for Kidderminster, with having over 50 goals in 170 games. So kind of like a 1 in 3, 1 in 4 man. Strong, physical, but quite skillful as well. The other player to mention there, Marco, is Maziar Kua, 26-year-old Afghan, really tricky midfielder. Looks an exceptional talent, really. Played for Walsall, Hereford, and on loan from York. And as I mentioned earlier, kind of would expect him to go back to York at some point this season, or at least kind of play it back in the conference where you would expect him to play. Another thing to watch out for on Friday, Amari Moran-Smith will miss out, we think, on Friday due to concussion protocol. Now, picked up a head injury on the 17th of August. Now, I would be surprised that the concussion protocol is so long, but Phil Brown did kind of say in his post-match interview that he was still expecting Smith to not be available because of the protocol. And if that isn't a double bluff, then, Max, I was actually kind of surprised at how long this concussion protocol goes on for now. That'd be 2 weeks, I think, 14 days.
Yeah, I would rather these things be too cautious than not cautious enough. There's lots of evidence around the potential for brain injuries, not just in football, but in a whole host of other sports. Look, I wouldn't read too much into Phil Brown's post-match press conferences, whether or not he's bluffing, whether or not he's double bluffing. Look, let's put the side out that we think is our best team that we have available to us. Let's play in a way in which we think we'll get the best out of them. Let's get the crowd going. It seems like there might be a good atmosphere. As you say, sometimes those night games can just have a little bit of something in the air. So yeah, fingers crossed. But it's going to be a big game. A point wouldn't be a disaster. We're still only, as you say, 5 games into the season. Long way to go yet.
Gareth, one thing Max mentioned there was kind of putting our best team out there. Would you expect to see Andy Boyce get his position back in the starting lineup, or do you think he might be benched for this one if he's available?
If he's available, I don't know. It's a difficult one, isn't it? Because Will Evans, picked up the man of the match, fans man of the match on the Monday. Yeah, good game, solid game. So yeah, it's a difficult one. That it'd be nice to see Boyce back, but would you just keep momentum? We've just won away. We've not won up in the North East for ages. We just keep the same team out there and keep it going and get Boyce on the bench, possibly. I don't know. It's a tough one because who do we have on the bench that could have come into the middle on Saturday? It's Monday even.
What to play in which position? Centre back or
centre back? If someone had been,
I think Kelly would have probably been the one to slot in, or Barrows. Barrows would probably have been the shout if he was still on the pitch. I think they might have put him there, and then look to put maybe one of the offensive players as the other wing back.
Yeah. No, I can't see him coming back into the straight in.
The counter argument to that would be we've not conceded yet this season with Boyce on the field.
True. And he has scored goals. So, we'll let Butler deal with that.
Quite right. Right, let's go for a round of predictions then. So Friday night, under the lights, top of the table clash. Marco, what's your prediction?
As you say, something about those Friday games. I'm going 2-0 Iron and Phil Browns Harriers.
Max, what do you say? Any celebrations or any kind of halftime team talks on the pitch do you expect?
I would love it, or maybe we could crack out a few of the old chants from when Phil Brown was Hull manager. I could see the game being quite cagey. Neither side really wanting to make too many mistakes. Because we're 3 points clear already of third and fourth, for this round of fixtures, a point would keep us top regardless. Wouldn't be a bad result. I can see set pieces being quite important. I'll go for 1-1.
Yeah, and Gareth?
I think, like Max has just said, they're a cagey affair. I'm going to be negative. 1-0 Kidderminster. Sorry.
Yeah.
I did.
I know I've said it every game. I'm the ultimate pessimist. I think we're due a loss. Not because we're playing bad, not at all. But we're going to lose games this season, right? And Kidderminster look a decent team. So this is as good a game as any to lose. So I'm going to go 2-1 Kidderminster.
Marco's shaking his head.
I am so disappointed.
But not surprised.
Hey, we'll see. Next podcast, we'll see who's laughing. I'm going to go full Farage. You all laughed at me.
Well, you've only gone 2-0. You've not exactly stuck your neck out and gone 7-0.
So does that mean if it all goes wrong that I get to throw a milkshake at you?
I think we'll be okay. I think we've got a good record on Friday nights. Look, I know we've got to show a lot of respect, but let's take a step back. We will be fine. I've got a good feeling. 2-0 I am. I know Max Curry has a good player. Sometimes when Scunthorpe's not been playing, I've gone to watch York games last season, and he does look a real threat. Not just that his ability to actually take people on, but his delivery and set pieces, and just general crosses into the box. Definitely something we should worry about. The Boyce argument is tough because I think we could maybe do with him, but Evans was fantastic. I thought against Shields, and I thought he had a really good game.
Well, listen, it could be Coogan that drops out, and actually you put Evans on the right side, and Boyce plays in the middle. Who knows? As Gareth says, no, you're not a fan, Gareth.
No.
Okay.
I think Evans or Boyce in the middle. And
okay.
Yeah.
I'll bow to your superior knowledge. So let's go to the questions from the fans then. We've got a few again this week. Paul Farman says, can we or will we beat the attendance record again this season? Ooh, I think yes. What do you say, Gareth?
Well, we can beat it, but whether we do is a different story. I don't know. Will the club have an offer on a game that helped beat it last time? I think it all depends on what's happening on the actual day. If we've got ticket offer and things like that. But I think Max wants to jump in there. Go on, Max.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the fixture list now for potential likely targets. I see that we're at home to Chester on March the 22nd. If both clubs were up properly rocking at the top of the table, maybe. But other than to break the attendance record, you do need a really good, chunky away following. And unfortunately, one of the downsides about the National League North is you don't get many games where that's automatically a banker. So if we get to the end of the March and we're still up there, I could see Chester at home at the very least pushing it close.
Gareth, I'll sit with you. Carol Birch asks, who do you think will be our biggest threats this season?
We had a similar question last week, and I did answer it that ourselves.
What a knobhead. Max, give us a serious answer, please.
Before the start of the season, I said Brackley, their fixtures at the start of this season have been rotten. I think their first 3 games were us, Chester away, and then Kidderminster. I still think I would be very surprised if they're not in the top 4 at the end of the season.
Marco, definitely one for you. Jamie Brace asks, how much pressure is it being the #1 fan podcast?
Well, I make it look easy, obviously.
It's the retro shirt that does it for me.
Yeah.
Anybody who is maybe listening on Spotify or something can't see Marco with the sort of 2001 to bright green phenomenon. He's rocking it well.
Yeah. It's the shirt that does it for you, is it? Okay. Daz Drury asks, after 5 games, he says his starting 11 would be Fitz, Coogan, Evans, Nicholson, Barrows, Kelly, Scales, Flynn and Roberts, Whitehall and Beeston. what would the panel's first choice starting 11 be? Well, I'll summarise that. It'd be pretty similar, to be honest. I think I'd go for Boyce, and I think that'll be the splitting point on most of the podcast. I think we all have similar views that the starting 11 has been good. Gareth, over to you.
Do you think Boyce is fast enough?
I tell you what, that's one for Marco. I think that is a question for Marco.
Do I think Boyce is fast enough? I think Coogan next to him and him in the middle, I think he's fine.
And how do you think his pace compares to, let's say, Will Evans?
Oh, it's definitely slower.
Clip it, Gareth. Clip it and get it sent. Clip
Why?
it and get it sent.
Have I just fell straight into a trap there?
You might have, yes. A trap that's been laid.
That was cruel. That was not a fair fight. That they stitched Marco up like a kipper.
To be fair, we have seen neither at full pace. Again, going to be awful. Yeah, I think neither, and I think they'll be the first to admit, are the most agile. Hence, being a centre half, that's not what you're there for. But as a centre half, you should never need to be in full sprint. Otherwise, you've made a mistake. So, but if again, look, I don't think either are particularly fast. So I don't think it'd be a very good race. But yeah, it's one I'd watch.
Yes, indeed. Max, quick one for you. Bradley Hollingsworth asks, who do you think will win the playoffs if we won the league?
On the basis that they've binned it 7 years in a row, surely that law of averages has got to go. I'll go for Brackley on point of principle.
Stuart Moore's been quite cheeky here. He says, again, Barrow, my bet's looking good. I think the squad is a strong one. I believe we'll finish as champions. Do any of you think that squad needs strengthening in any areas? I wouldn't look to bring any players in. The bet he's alluding to there is at the start of the season, before a ball was kicked, he said, I'll have a £10 bet with you that Scunthorpe will win the league. And I went, so let me get this straight. If they don't win the league, you give me £10. And he said, yes. I was like, well, I'll take that bet every day of the week. Then we beat Brackley 3-0, and he was already asking me to settle. I said, I think you're a bit eager. But you know, I think I might be settling in January at this rate. I think we're looking good. We are looking good. Right. We'll head over to Twitter for some questions from there. I Am Magic Gareth says, do you see potential in Carlton? I'm sure we can all agree it's been frustrating so far. Yeah, do you know what? I think we talked about that actually. I think there's more to come. And I think he'll do well this season. Interesting question, Max. Rick Waterworth says, good day, gents, and welcome, Becky. I should say we've got a new member of the podcast. Becky is joining us full time now. She's not here this evening, obviously, as you might have guessed, but she will be joining us on a permanent basis going forward, just to enable us basically to get a weekly podcast out and make sure we can commit to getting that out for you guys. So welcome, Becky. Are you surprised that there hasn't been a peep from Jimmy Dean since his departure? I felt that he had a good rapport with the fans. Also, Barra, what year's games are you watching when you're making the predictions to Gareth? That's very harsh. Max, thoughts on that regarding Jimmy Dean?
So, I know this isn't Rick's fault, but obviously since he sent that tweet, Jimmy's got the Spalding job. Very, very local to him in Peterborough. It'd be a 15-minute drive, if that. So, absolute best of luck to him. They've been an upwardly mobile club at that level. He's managed extremely successfully at that level before. They're only one division below the National League North. We could get them in the Lynx Cup. That would be funny. So absolute best of luck to Jimmy. And in terms of whether or not managers have been quiet, look, it's when you get sacked or let go by a club, whether or not you're a player or a manager, it is really, really difficult. I think of all the managers we rattled through with Swan, it was in many cases quite a long time before we heard from them. So I would just say that I'm sure Jimmy will be keeping an eye on all things Scunthorpe going forward, and that he's still someone that I hope Iron fans want to do really well in the future.
Yeah, I think that's well said. I think that's definitely where we are. I wish him all the best of luck, unless, of course, we come against them in the Links Cup. But yeah, no, I think he'll be the manager that goes down as having, been with us in our darkest hour. So I think a lot of fans actually have quite a lot of admiration for him, regardless of what their views are on the football we played last season. But listen, we did finish second and we came very close to promotion. But I think a lot of people have quite positive things to say about Jimmy. So yeah, all the best of luck. Right, let's head over then for our next segment, Hero, Idiot, and Moment of the Week. I'm going to hit up you first, Marco. Who is your hero of the week?
My hero of the week, to be fair, you're going to like this. So I've been
Is he
watching
German?
C1, which involves Freddie Flintoff. And he's taking a lot of sort of underprivileged kids from Preston who don't have the greatest of backgrounds, and obviously sort of in and out of trouble, and trying to sort of get them on straight and narrow through cricket. Look, I'm not a big cricket fan. It's no secret, but I mean, what obviously Freddie Flintoff went through with the accident and stuff. He's lucky to be alive, and the fact that he still chooses to take obviously a lot of time out of his life to help improving others. On the actual series, he's taken them to India to learn about cricket that way. So yeah, my hero Freddie Flintoff this week, which is crazy considering my cricket knowledge.
Max, who's your hero of the week?
That's a great answer. Speaking as a cricket fan, I'm a big fan of that one. My hero of the week is Charlie Austin. For anybody who doesn't know, obviously the ex Southampton forward, had a really really good career. Has recently been diagnosed with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, often known as ADHD. He's talked really movingly and positively about that, and for any Iron fan who's maybe interested in the subject, struggled at school themselves, is a parent, has got any family member who's perhaps had special educational needs. Really, really interesting stuff. Go and read his interview. I think it's really, really powerful stuff.
Good answer. And Gareth, who's your hero of the week?
I didn't really prepare one, but I have gone for Becky for joining the pod.
And that is the right answer. Becky is the hero of the week for joining the elite team. And who knows, maybe we might get close to that mantle of being top dogs. Maybe not. Who knows? Right, just bear with us. We've just got another question. Oh my God. We just got another question came in, but I don't know if I can ask it. It's from Ross Gibson and it says, is Max Bell an undercover Tory? No, he's not. Right, so let's go to our idiot of the week. Max, is it Ross Gibson by any chance?
I've known Ross far too long. There are stories I could tell that have put hairs on his mum's chest, never mind his own. I would just like to say though that I had Becky joining the podcast as my moment of the week. So I've had my thunder stolen from me by Gareth, as always. My idiot of the week, and I was quite disappointed to read it on Twitter, but it obviously don't have a name. My idiot of the week is whoever bricked the Scunthorpe United players and staff coach. Obviously, James Moody tweeted that some of the post-match coverage had been delayed because they were having to sort that out. Luckily, it did get sorted out in the end. But I would just say, for goodness sake, this isn't the old firm. It's not the Istanbul derby. It's Scunthorpe versus South Shields in the National League North, for goodness sake. Obviously, we saw it something similar happened last season at Barnsley Celtic, where the supporters' bus was bricked and that caused delays as well. I would just urge, in the unlikely event that whoever did it is listening, to get a grip, and that I hope that we don't have to suffer any similar incidents this season. And if they can be caught, hopefully they will be.
Marco, who is your idiot of the week?
My idiot is, I forgot his name, but it's the referee from the Cagliari versus Como game. I don't know if you've seen it. I know the guys in here have, because I was very moody about it. I've also learned a new rule as well, that you can't go to VAR for a goalkeeper pass back. So, yeah, referee missing a blatant back pass, costing Cagliari 3 points. Just happens it was Pepe Reina as well in that, who's like, what, 67? So, yeah, that was my idiot, but look, that's never going to change.
And Gareth, your idiot of the week?
The pitch invader at the Carabao Cup game with Millwall Leyton Orient. Just, getting a stadium ban for a nothing game, really.
Yeah, I'm going to give the points to Max on that one. So it's 1-1 going into the final round. Let's try and be quick if we can, guys. Your moment of the week, I've already had Max's. I know what that is. Marco, what's your moment of the week?
Mine's quite poignant. Earlier on in the week, Sven-Goran Eriksson's death. I think what he's done in football, look, few could only dream of. Not many people's got a bad word to say about him. When he came to Godfrey Park, he made time for me, had a picture of me. He even spoke to my dad in Italian after noticing his Cagliari shirt. So, yeah, Sven for me, I think he'll be missed.
Good answer, Gareth. Your moment of the week?
I'll be quick, just give Marco the points.
Correct. Give Marco the point.
Okay. So everyone finishes with 1 point. We'll settle that next week because we have got 3 minutes, Marco, for you to summarise the FPL. 3 minutes. Go.
I don't want to talk about FPL. It has been terrible all weekend, and all that everybody's been thinking is, do we triple captain Haaland? I've been listening to podcasts. This was the week, which was like whatever FPL nerds are out there had worked percentages out. Haaland versus Ipswich was the most highest games predicted for points all season and throughout the last couple of seasons. So obviously I didn't triple captain him, and he scores 3. This week, George Graham did triple captain him and took a total of 121 points this week, which is the most in the league. Not as many actually did triple captain as I thought. A couple broke me over 100, Barry. Yeah, so Graham's army with 121 points. Unbelievable this week. Us guys aren't doing too well, not going to lie. But Gareth is the top of a bad bunch at the minute. So, yeah, something to keep in mind. But it's still early days, much like Scunthorpe, still early days.
Is it the same George Graham that used to manage Tottenham and Arsenal? That's what I want to know.
I would suspect no.
It's probably no, but I'm hoping yes.
Well, I'm pleased to say, Marco, that was well within the allotted period of time. I would expect that's probably because you haven't researched rather than anything else. But maybe I'm being harsh there.
You were shaking your head. I'll talk all day.
Well, yeah, of course, and it's usually not right. But anyway, right, thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Iron Hour podcast. As always, I've been Barry, I've had Gareth, Marco, and Max. And as I say, watch out next week because we will have Becky with us. And yeah, thanks for tuning in. Up the iron.